you cannot appease a cancer. You have to remove it, and remove it totally with all the parts, not to leave anything. And this is exactly what happens with Iran. Appeasement and negotiations with them, agreements, they never agree, and they never implement it, since they are compulsive liars. Nobody should believe them. Nobody should sit with them. They have to be destroyed, really destroyed.
Today, we're joined once again by Dr. Mordechai Kedar, one of the world's leading Middle East experts and a former Israeli military intelligence officer. Since your last appearance, Dr. Kedar, the region has changed dramatically from the war with Iran to Gaza and Hezbollah. The big question is, has the balance of power truly shifted, or are we only at the beginning of a much larger conflict? Dr. Kedar, welcome back.
Thank you so much, Daniel, for having me here. Well, your question is very big and it requires a very long answer. However, if we try to put it shortly, the world today actually sees a war between the good and evil, between the Western civilization, resembled by the United States of America and Israel, who are fighting against the evil axis, Iran, behind it, Russia, North Korea, and other terror organizations like Hamas, Hezbollah, and Turkey also part of this war, because don't forget, Turkey since 2002, since Erdogan came to power, Turkey became Muslim Brotherhood country, which is aiming at toppling the West. And this is actually the essence of the struggle which we see today. The normalcy, the human rights, democracies resembled by Israel and the United States of America against the tyranny, against terrorism, against mayhem, against chaos, and against Islamic domination shared by the Shia and the Sunni alike. And this is actually the essence of the struggle. Israel is determined. Israel knows to the depth what we are facing. President Trump, for a long while, he was also siding with the right side, siding with human rights, siding with normalcy and the values, or the Christian Jewish values, which ran the West for many years. However, due to other reasons, the midterm elections, the economy, the prices of oil, and other considerations, the Iranians, the spearhead of the jihadism, succeeded to convince, in their way, succeeded to convince Trump that for his better well-being, he should stop his war against evil. And unfortunately, like a month ago, the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding between Iran and the United States, actually gave Iran almost what Iran demands. And President Trump actually capitulated to the dictates of the Iranians. However, during the last few days, we definitely see how this Memorandum of Understanding actually collapses. And Trump, in his own words, he said it clearly to the camera. Not only this, at some point this week, he said that the Iranian leaders are scum. This thing is something which they absolutely cannot accept, because humiliation is the last thing on earth which those people are ready to have. They can suffer war, they can suffer casualties, they can suffer, people get killed, injured, whatever, but humiliation is something which is absolutely unacceptable. And to call them scum is a humiliation. And today, I think that they are in a kind of a tantrum which prevents them from making a rational decision, because they are now in their search for revenge because of what Trump said about them that they are scum. This is something which is intolerable, and they will never forget and will never forgive what he said. This is the mindset, unfortunately, of these people. They are as far as would be from Christians, which if you give them a slam on one cheek, they will turn the other cheek as well. The Iranians are as far as possible from this kind of mindset, and they will take revenge. No doubt, no minimal doubt about this, because they are not willing to have a humiliation. As they say in Arabic, hayhat min adhulla, means the hell with humiliation. Means they cannot accept it. And this is something which culturally is not understood by the West. Because in the West, especially the Christian West, people say, well, somebody humiliates me, let it be, I'll be humbled, and I will suffer and it will be okay. The main thing is we continue living and doing whatever we do. No, in the Middle East, first of all, dignity and honor are way above the status of life in the Middle East. One would better die with pride rather than live with shame. And this is what motivates them today. In addition, the religious views which led them until today. They are in jihad. Jihad against the big Satan means America, big jihad against the small Satan and means Israel. And they are in a jihad against all the collaborators with America and Israel. The Emirates, the Saudis, Bahrainis, Kuwaitis, even Jordanians, which suffer tonight from a barrage of missiles all of a sudden. So all those Azerbaijanis, all those who cooperate and collaborate with Israel and the United States should suffer because they collaborate with the Satan. And this is how these people think. And this is why they broaden the scope of the war rather than narrowing the scope in order to survive better. But they have no problem, no restriction to bomb other countries, although those countries, not only that they are not part of the war, they do not want the war to begin with. They are against the war. The United Arab Emirates were against the war from the beginning. They never have broadcast any other message that they are for a war. And they are afraid of the Iranians, and therefore they want end of the war from the beginning. So hitting them, okay. The Iranian regime is based on like Shia ideology. That they should spread havoc all over the world in order to bring back the hidden imam who is hiding for over 1,000 years and is still alive. And in order to bring him back, they need the world sinking into chaos. And this is actually what they do.
So new reports say that Israel shared intelligence with the United States about a new Iranian plot targeting President Trump. Would Iran really risk trying to assassinate him at this point, or is the threat itself another weapon? And what does it tell us about the way the regime is thinking today?
Well, this is no secret that there is a very close cooperation, very intimate cooperation between Israel and the United States of America. I was part of this cooperation when I was in the army. And it is well known that Israel and America are working together on the same projects when it comes to intelligence and operations as well. The Mossad and the CIA are deeply connected to each other, not only because the whole group of organizations like these two. And there is I would say, Western collaboration or cooperation about Iran. And the Iranians know it very well, that they are penetrated by both the Mossad and the CIA. No doubt, they know it. Once in a while, they catch some people who they claim that were working with the Israelis or the Americans. I don't know if it's right or not, but this is what they claim. Yes, I think they should have raised a white flag long ago, especially since February 28, when the war erupted. But they don't think in a logical way, in our logic. They have a different logic. They have a religious logic and not and a human being's logic. This is why we don't understand. We means Westerners don't understand them, and therefore you need to really master their language and customs in order to understand how these people think, because they don't think like us Americans or like us Europeans. They think like modern people in Iran who are deeply connected with the past and actually represent the past on the ground, because this is their mindset.
Do you think there's a way for someone to truly understand the regime without understanding Shia Islam? Do you think that Western leaders keep making the same mistakes because they look at Iran like a normal nation state, but they don't understand how differently the regime views the world?
Look, let me tell you, let me show you some things so you understand how this regime thinks. We quote some original documents in southern Lebanon, and they actually showed, look at this pamphlet. This pamphlet shows Khamenei. This was published like 20 years ago. Khamenei is in some kind of encounter with the image which is made of light. This is the hidden imam. He is hiding already for more than 1,000 years. He's still alive, and he hides in a cave in a district in Iran named Khorasan. And he will come back to mankind in one of two situations. One situation is that the whole world converts to Shia Islam, and the whole world will wait for him in order to come to redeem the world from all the problems. This is one situation which he will come back to mankind. The other event is when the whole world sinks into big chaos, big war, that everybody fights everybody, no rules, no laws, no nothing. And Allah will have, in that situation, no other choice but to send the hidden imam back to mankind in order to redeem the mankind from the big mayhem which they are into. The Iranians are willing to push the world into that chaos. Economic chaos, maritime traffic chaos, is the blockade on the Hormuz Straits, economic chaos. This is what they want to push the world in order to bring the Mahdi back. This is how they think. Another something which we found in southern Lebanon is this pamphlet, 6 pages, a short biology of Khamenei, the founder of the Islamic Republic. Now, look at this pamphlet. You see the light enlightens his forehead, his eyes, his mouth, his chest, and his hands. And it's actually called Sutur Nur, means the lines of light. Okay? But these are the lines of light. It means the divine light enlightens his thoughts, his views, his words, his feelings, and ultimately his deeds as well. Means he cannot make any mistake. He is infallible. And this is what they believe about their leaders. So who are the Israeli wine drinkers or the American swine eaters to tell them, those who are led by Allah, enlightened by Allah, to tell them what to do and what not to do? If they decide that they have the right to develop nuclear weapon, who are the Americans? A nation of 250 years only. They count thousands of years of history. Since Ahasuerus and formerly. Okay, they despise the Americans. They hate the Israelis. Who are they? The Israeli state, which was established 78 years ago. Who cares about such a country? And this is how they view the United States and Israel, as countries which absolutely have no right to tell the Iranians, the believers, as they call themselves, what to do and what not to do. This is something which they absolutely cannot accept. That America and Israel actually try to impose their terms on the Iranians. And all the rest is what you see. This is the mindset, this is the motivation, of these people, and we must be aware of and to understand it to depth. But not only this, this is a Parashat HaShavua of Hezbollah from 2006, like 20 years ago. Here it shows Khamenei, and they quote a sermon which he gave. I'll read you one sentence. The strategic depth of the Iranian nation extends to Palestine, to North Africa, to the Near East, to Central Asia, and the Indian subcontinent. All the way, all these countries, actually from Morocco in North Africa to India, Mihodu ve'ad Kush belongs to them. These countries are their strategic background. Do you remember Morocco volunteers to be Iran's strategic background? Did you hear the Libyans volunteer, or the Egyptians, or what? Saudis, which are also included in this? And this kind of thinking that the whole Islamic world is their strategic depth is just like, Daniel, I will start buying things, distributing checks, and I will tell those who sell me the furniture, if there is no cover to the check, go to Daniel. He is my strategic depth of my bank account. Would you accept it? Would Egypt accept to be the strategic depth of the Iranians? Never. But the Iranians have the chutzpah to say that all these Islamic countries, by the way, most of them are Sunnah, all of them are the strategic background of Iran. And this is how they treat the others. You know, Iran über alles. Iran above everybody, which reminds us another dictatorship which was in Europe. They are the same. And don't forget, there is a very deep connection between the Iranians or the Persians, especially, and the Germans. Because the Germans are actually Persian tribes which came 2,000 years ago from Central Asia to Europe. The Goths, the Visigoths, and many others. They came from Central Asia. As we call it in Hebrew, Nedidat Ha'amim Hagdolah, the big migration, which took place like 2,000 years ago. And actually they are the tribes which pushed the Roman Empire to collapse, because this empire was too old and too fatigued to fight those tribes. And they actually succeeded to do it. So, and you know, the language proves. Brother in German is Bruder, right? In Persian, it is Baradar. Daughter in German, Tochter. In Persian, Dochtar. Fadar is father. Madar is mother. Okay? It shows you that the languages are interconnected, German and Persian. This proves the story about the migration. So the same, I would say, dictatorial idea which led Germany in the 30s and the 40s and brought about the destruction of nations or states and the extermination of 6 million Jews, today is alive and kicking in Iran. The same mindset, the same Nazi one of controlling the others, as we heard in this pamphlet, and exterminating the Jews. This is what you see. The same slogans, but this time they are in Persian. You know, people run in the street and shout, "Death to America, death to Israel." What do they mean? Is this a peaceful approach to Israel and America? Okay, so this is what we face here in the Middle East. And the Islamists around us cannot wait for our collapse. Because once, if, God forbid, Israel collapses in front of those waves of jihadism, these waves will cover Europe in no time. And the Atlantic Ocean is not wide enough to keep America safe from this jihadi tsunami. And this is what we all should take in account when we talk about migration. No, it's not a migration to Western Europe, what we see. What we see is invasion. Because migration is people who come to adopt your culture and to become part of your society. These people do not come to integrate. They come to take the place over.
Now, you mentioned that Iran, Islamic Republic of Iran's goal is to take over the Middle East, I guess eventually to take over the world. So where does the Palestinians come in this? Do they actually care about the Palestinians, or is that an excuse to try to take over Israel? How do the Palestinians fit into this picture?
Palestinian issue was created as an anti-Jewish and anti-Israel weapon. By the way, Palestinians admit exactly this. There is traditionally there was never a Palestinian nation. Where did it live, this Palestinian nation? Here it was the Ottoman Empire. There was no Palestinian state ever in any place in the world. There was Egypt. So Egyptians definitely have a national definition. Iraq is also Biad al-Iraq. It's something which is well known in the Arab history. So, but Palestine was never a country which had a nation on it or defined nation on it, unlike Islam, something like that. So it was invented in the 20th century as a tool against the state of Israel, which Arabs and non-Arabs who share the hatred to Israel, and especially anti-Semites or Jew haters in Europe, joined this idea of Palestinianism, that everybody know that Palestine is supposed to replace the state of Israel. How do I know? They show it. This is a flag of the Palestinian Authority. See this flag of the Palestinian Authority. Okay? From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. And they still are considered by some Israelis and many people in the United States and in Europe and Canada as partner for peace. This is the peace which they see. Peace with no Israel. Okay? So this is why we shouldn't be dragged by words. We should see what they do on the ground. And this is what they do in order to preserve the dream, in order to preserve the idea, and in order to implement it when the Israelis again will fall asleep on God.
Now, we see sometimes in negotiations with Iran, do you think that they ever negotiate in good faith? Is it a mistake to negotiate with them? What should be the way to deal with them?
Negotiations in the Middle East are only about the terms of surrender. Anything else is a way how to defeat your opponent or your enemy or your, I don't know who. This is the negotiations are only meant to determine how much the loser will pay the winner after he lost the war. This is negotiations, not about anything else. And unfortunately, Trump thinks that negotiations will come out with agreement, and this agreement will be implemented by the Iranians. It never happened. They always cheat, they always con, and they always try to drag time in order to get you out of patience, because they have all the time in the world. You know, we have a watch, they have time. And they, they actually base it on a verse in the Quran which says, Inna Allah ma sabirin. Allah is with those who have patience. And unfortunately, the world is not aware enough about the situation. And I think that the world should learn about Islam, about what Islam is, and what are the dreams of Muslims, and what are, okay. I don't mean those Muslims who are with us, like the Emiratis and the others, but definitely those radicals who fight against us, This is what they think.
We just saw 1 week of funeral for Khamenei. Nowadays, who is calling the shots for the regime? I guess we thought that things would get easier once he was gone. Is it possible that it's getting worse? What do you think of the regime now as it stands after Khamenei's death?
Look, for the regime to survive, they don't need nuclear weapons. They don't need missiles. They don't need Air Force or Navy. All they need is rifles in the street held by the IRGC with the permission to shoot at whoever they don't like. Just like what happened in January 8 and 9, when they butchered in the streets dozens of thousands of people. This is what they need in order to survive. And therefore, defeating such a regime is not easy because they recruit all the time new people to fight. And how long does it take in order to turn into a 17 or 18 years old boy to a fighter? You just take a Kalashnikov, they show you how to dismantle it and how to shoot and this, and that's it. Half a day makes maximum. And their way to regenerate their power is very fast. And we have to know this because the enemy becomes less and less trained and less capable. And this is the good process.
Now, we know that Iran has nuclear ambitions. They want a nuclear weapon, but they also have their proxies like Hezbollah. Which one do you think is more important for them?
First of all, not always things are alternative to each other. You can have both if you really insist. They view Lebanon or Hezbollah in Lebanon as the top of their successes. The top, which, today is as it is. Lebanon under Hezbollah is their achievement, and they will never forget and never forgive to whoever destroys Lebanon, whether it be Sunnis or Shara, the Syrian president. Actually, he means to slaughter the Lebanese, and we have to see because I'm not a future teller, and today the most important person in the Middle East is Donald J. Trump. He is the one who makes the decisions.
Now, I just want to talk about Gaza. We just heard on the news that Hamas says they're willing to step away from governing Gaza, but I guess they refuse to give up their weapons. So if they keep their guns, has anything really changed? What is their game that they're playing now?
This is exactly this. They want to eat the cake and keep it for tomorrow as well. And this is the problem, that the world actually sometimes agrees to their mashigas.
Now, what do you think the future is for Gaza?
Gaza, I really don't know what happens there because every day I hear different things. The society is fragmented, the society is shattered to pieces, and Hamas are still alive and kicking, or alive and killing if needed. They definitely need killing in order to deter the people who would run to Israel in order to get out for them. And this is something which I try to push forward, yet we are not aware of success.
Now, we saw that Israel and Lebanon kind of had negotiations, and they're obviously under pressure to disarm Hezbollah. But do you think that's actually possible for the government of Lebanon to disarm them?
So far, Hezbollah is there for like 45 years. The Lebanese army have never tried and never succeeded, therefore, to dismantle even one weapon, one piece of weapon from their hands of Hezbollah. So to say that now they will be more successful, let's wait and see if this is correct or not. I have no idea because we don't have experience of fighting between the army and Hezbollah.
What about Syria? Do you think that Israel should trust Syria's new leadership, or is that a dangerous mistake?
Look, in Hebrew we say kabdeu v'chashdeu, means we can honor them, but we should always suspect that they are actually trying to connect us with the community in Gaza and to the Shia community in Lebanon. And in order to really destroy Hezbollah and Hamas over, you have actually to evacuate the place from the constituency, which is their area. And nobody is going to deport the males, neither from Gaza nor from Lebanon, Shia from Lebanon. So that's why they can always recruit more and more soldiers, give them weapons, and expect that they do something with it.
Now, you've warned about Turkey for many years. Why aren't more people paying attention to Turkey? We see Trump, he was just there, he's friends with Erdogan, but yet Erdogan is calling for Israel's destruction. How seriously do we take Erdogan? How seriously do we take Turkey as a threat? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm afraid that not seriously enough. And when I listen to Trump actually gives all kinds of compliments to Erdogan, I ask myself, what? The man doesn't know that the Erdogan is jihadist, supports Hamas, supports other terror organizations. What? Didn't Trump had a good advisor to tell him about Erdogan, who he is and what he is? And therefore, when it comes to Israel, Israel is much more realistic. But the United States sometimes fall into dreams about the Arab world and the Islamic world. Maybe these people can be tamed, but they cannot. They cannot.
Now, what do you think it is? Also, Trump is friends with Qatar. Also, it seems like he would be willing to speak with anyone. Is there a reason why he's doing this?
The issue with Qatar is very strange. Trump knows that the Muslim Brotherhood is a terror organization. That's why he actually published an executive order banning Hamas in some countries, banning the Muslim Brotherhood in some countries, like in Egypt and in Jordan, when he outlawed those organizations. But Qatar actually the sponsor of these organizations. So Qatar is okay, while the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt are not. After Qatar actually sponsors them for a long while. So this is the problem, that the Qataris are such a bright people. They succeeded to undermine countries, but to be friends of the rulers of those countries. And, by money, they can buy whoever they want, because money talks, money buys, and money bribes, and they bribe people on right, left, and center.
Now, we're seeing Iran attack all the countries around it, many of the Arab countries, but yet those Arab countries don't respond. Why is it that they don't confront Iran themselves, and they leave it up to the United States and Israel to do that job?
They are petrified out of fear. They are afraid, because as long as they don't retaliate, at least the Iranians might, mercy them and leave them alone, hopefully. But if they join the war, this will be very problematic for them, because don't forget that all their oil production infrastructure is on the ground, exposed to the missiles and the drones of the Iranians, and the Iranians will do it in no time. And the Emiratis know it very well.
So, do you think that there can ever be peace with this Iranian regime, or we would have to remove the regime? This is the only way to do it. What is your view of the future of this conflict?
Look, I'm sorry about the comparison, but the same question could be about malignant growth in your husband shalom, right? About in somebody's body. You cannot appease a cancer. You have to remove it, and remove it totally. With all the parts, not to leave anything, because otherwise you'll die. And this is exactly what happens with Iran. Appeasement or negotiations with them, agreements, they never agree, and they never implemented even one agreement, which they had with the international community about, especially their nuclear program. They never adhere to their own signatures. Therefore, since they are compulsive liars, nobody should believe them. Nobody should sit with them. They have to be destroyed, really destroyed. No other word. Maybe exterminated. There could be another word, but nothing else.
Okay, Dr. Kedar, I want to thank you for your time, and I think we learned a lot.
Thank you so much. Have a nice. Let's hope for the best and prepare for the worst.
All the best.
Thank you.